The mainstream media is being accused of a double standard in its coverage of Republican versus Democratic scandals. GOP Congressman Chris Collins' arrest on insider trading charges this week. We're getting prominent coverage on the three big TV networks who quickly linked Collins to President Trump. Watch.
Congressman Chris Collins.
Republican Congressman Chris Collins.
New York Congressman Chris Collins.
Republican Congressman Chris Collins.
One of the first to endorse then-candidate Donald Trump.
The news setting shockwaves through Washington.
As one of the president's earliest supporters comes into the crosshairs.
And new trouble for one of President Trump's earliest allies.
He became the first congressman to be charged with a crime since Trump's presidency.
Okay, so you get their point. Those are the same three networks appeared to ignore or downplay the indictments and trials of two Democrats in 2015 and 2016. This is according to a media research study. The networks had zero coverage of former Democrat Congresswoman Corinne Brown's fraud conviction and just 68 seconds of coverage of former Democratic Congressman Chaka Fattah, also convicted of fraud. But the Republican Collins getting more than 18 minutes of coverage in the first 24 hours after the news broke. What do you think?
Well, I can't say I'm shocked. I mean, look, what I don't understand is, I understand there is relevance if, a congressman gets indicted. But what I don't understand is why they constantly try to make a link, saying either he's a friend of Trump or he's a supporter of Trump or he's known to associate with Republicans. Because this doesn't have any connection to the alleged crime. If this was something where he was conspiring with other Republicans in the caucus, well, then maybe it's relevant. But just the fact that he engaged in what allegedly was kind of an insider trading stock scheme with, his son and some relatives or things like that, that has absolutely no relevance to his larger political connections or who he endorses for president.
And also because he got the information by virtue of being on the board of directors of the company. It's not like he got the inside information as a result of his role in Congress. Not that, obviously what he did is, if it's true, is not even remotely okay. But like you said, it doesn't have to do directly with what his job is in Washington.
Can I just submit one thing as evidence, since we have a train on the couch? As bias, you look at the New York Times article that they did about Senator Bob Menendez when he was going through his corruption trial. They did not mention in a lengthy article that he was a Democrat once. Yep. And then after criticism, they updated it online and only mentioned it in the fourth paragraph of the article. So I will simply submit that to the record as evidence of bias in the way these things are covered.
That's very powerful evidence.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought you would like that.
I love it. Love it.
Look, I think it's important that this kind of coverage is put out there to the country. This is a Republican who's being accused of very serious crimes. I just wish that the media would hold the other side to the same standard because it would be better for everybody. So I don't think that they should cover Republicans less aggressively. I think they should cover Democrats more aggressively because they're not, they commit crimes too. I thought it was funny when Nancy Pelosi was saying, she was also trying to connect it to the Republicans and saying that they're very corrupt and that Democrats, of course, have never had anything like this. And I just said, I think she needs to be reminded about who Maxine Waters is, of course, who was accused multiple times of corruption with her husband in a bank in California and benefiting because of her position in Congress. And so there are ethics violations on both sides. The frustration for me as someone in media is that Democrats are not given as much aggressive coverage. The same thing for Barack Obama. And it's not that journalists just have bias. They actively sometimes cover up things. Like, for example, Barack Obama's photo with Louis Farrakhan, and the journalist decided to hold it as to not derail.
Or leaving out the word Democrat.
Or that too. Right. Exactly.
But there's also just the inconsistency and the double standard, it would seem, that people, when Democrats are accused of something, people are not quick to jump to then connect that to a Democratic president. Like you don't see that sort of coupling that you see with, well, how close was Chris Collins to, Donald Trump? And if that were, as you said, Tom, even applicable in this case, then fine.
Right.
But it isn't.
That is so true. It seems as though if a Democrat is accused of something, it's a case of individual malfeasance.
Did you ever hear anybody say, all this is going on and their relationship with Barack Obama or Bill Clinton must have been such and such?
Right. Yeah, because they hang out with these people, therefore they were inclined to engage in criminal conduct. I mean, there's just no connection here.
Yeah. At the same time, you could bet, Lisa, that this is going to be an issue that Democrats will try to hang around the neck of Republicans. I can already feel the ads being made. It's something that they'll try to connect affect other folks too. How successful do you think they'll be? Because for the average person that's watching an ad or is listening, they haven't done the deep dive on what the crime was and what was the connection.
Well, and, does this impact, people that are running for Congress in California or these other states? Probably not as much. I mean, I think Democrats are going to collectively try to make an argument that Republicans are more broadly corrupt, which is why you're probably going to get a lot of pressure from congressional leadership for Chris Collins to just step aside.
Which it doesn't look like
he
he
says
wants
he's
to
not
do.
going to. So thus this plays out, and we will continue to discuss
I had a former federal prosecutor say when the story was breaking, he was on set with me, and he said, no, I don't think that he should step aside. He said, my bailiwick is legal, but if he were my client, I would tell him to stay in his job no matter what it is and let the facts bear out, because the bar, according to that federal prosecutor, was whether or not he was enriched, not his relatives, so on and so forth.
Right, and I think this is a good case where the legal judgment that you would bring to bear if you were the congressman's defense lawyer might differ from the political judgment. In other words, I get why the Republican leadership says, we got to excommunicate you at this point. But as a defense lawyer,
if that's your client,
absolutely, very different analysis.
Very true.